Welcome to Mi Escuela es su Escuela. My school is your school. This is Montgomery College TV and radio program. Today, my guest is Maria Sprehn. She's a professor of anthropology at the Rockville campus. Welcome to Mi Escuela es su Escuela, Maria. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. I've been trying to get you here for a very long time, but as we know, we all have different schedules, and I guess this was the perfect time for all of us, in terms of schedule and timing. So, good. So you teach anthropology at the college. Tell me, what brought you to anthropology, and when and how you decide to study anthropology?
Well, I have to say, Gloria, that I have always liked anthropology. Maybe I didn't know that it was anthropology, but when I was younger, I used to go to Mexico and to Spain to visit my relatives. And so I was exposed to many different cultures there, many different kinds of people, and lots of archaeological ruins. So from a very young age, I was interested in these differences and interested in the past as well. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather was a historian, and he published many books. But he also inspired me and supported me in a career in anthropology.
Let me ask you something now that you mentioned the fact that your grandfather had written books. Did you get around to read them? His books?
No, I haven't gotten around to read them. I should.
No, the reason I ask, and I'm thinking that would be fascinating to have a relative who's written his, background or with history and has written books, and I'm thinking, I wonder what the books are about, and I thought, whoa, Maria, what was it?
He wrote a lot about colonial law in the Americas.
Oh, wow.
So I do know that, and I've read parts, but I haven't sat down to read all of them.
Let me ask you something. So in case I decide, he wrote his books in English or in Spanish?
In Spanish.
In Spanish.
In Spanish.
I'm sure that if we were to do a search on your grandfather's books, we would probably find it. What was his name?
Javier Malagon.
Javier Malagon. So for you, dear audience, if you decide that you would like to read the books that Maria's grandfather wrote, you can probably go to the library?
The Library of Congress would be a good place.
Oh, fantastic. So maybe
or
it
even
will
a
be
Google
there.
search.
In Google. And his name was?
Javier Malagon.
Javier Malagon. That would be fascinating to read what your grandfather wrote about. That is a great topic. Well, so you teach Montgomery College anthropology. And what classes do the students take when they study anthropology?
Well, first, if I can explain a little bit about what anthropology is.
Fantastic,
for our
yes.
audience. Anthropology is the study of humans through time and across space. And I think it's important to note that there are four principal subfields in anthropology. There's cultural anthropology, which is the study of living peoples. Cultural anthropologists look at the differences among cultures and also the similarities. Then there's biological anthropology or physical anthropology, which addresses the human body through time, but also today. There is also linguistic anthropology, and in this subdiscipline, anthropologists look at language, from the very beginnings of language to dying languages today and the different ways that we use language. And then, of course, there's archaeology, which is the study of past cultures.
As you were explaining the different fields within a field, within a career, I was just thinking that you almost sound like, I don't know if I heard this correctly, but there is also a forensic anthropology.
Yes, forensic anthropology is a more focused part of physical anthropology. And so forensic anthropologists address the legal issues associated with the human body and human remains.
Well, with all these TV programs that you watch now, there is all these investigations about something, probably is where I heard the term. And many of the people who are going to be watching this program later on are going to think, Well, that's it. Well, yeah. There's so many fields within a career that nobody can probably thinks about. That anthropology is only one.
Right. Anthropology is a very broad discipline. And I've even had, I've had actually many students come to my classes because they were watching some of these TV programs and thought that it was really interesting.
Fascinating.
But getting back to the classes,
Yes.
Students have to take the basics, and there are prerequisites in math and in English. Here at Montgomery College, we offer various classes in anthropology. We offer an introduction to cultural anthropology. We offer a human evolution and archaeology. We offer a world cultures course. We offer introduction to archaeology. We offer a field course in archaeology where students spend a few weeks actually excavating at a local site. And students who also take the other archaeology courses go for half a day to actually go and do an excavation. So it was hands-on in some of our classes as well. And then we also have independent studies. Students will pick a topic that they are interested in and work on that with one of the professors. And then we also, for more advanced students, have honors courses as well.
So a student that would like to pursue a degree in anthropology, then will come to the college. They will have to take all the general classes, the general courses that any student has to study at the college.
Right.
That includes some math, includes English, biology, and all these other classes, and then start taking the classes specifically for anthropology. And a student will graduate with an associate degree in anthropology from the college?
In general studies.
In general studies.
Right, with a focus in anthropology.
Very good. That's good to know, because obviously a student who will come with the idea to become an anthropologist then knows that the major that he's going to choose is going to be general studies at the college.
Right.
When you fill out the application, then that's what you're going to select, general studies. Good. That's very good to know. So now parents and students out there, what can an anthropologist do? I mean, with a degree in anthropology, what can I do with that degree?
Well, first, I have to say that if someone wants to become an anthropologist, it's important to at least get a master's degree.
Okay.
So that's what one should shoot for. But in addition to teaching and doing research, there are lots of possibilities for anthropologists. Many anthropologists work in museums. They work on human rights issues. They work on international development, public health, diplomacy, international business are just some of the avenues that people can go. I think it's important for people to know that in studying anthropology and doing anthropology, students will gain a lot of skills, especially how to write well, how to do good research, how to communicate interculturally, which is really important to understand others' perspectives, and also critical thinking.
I think all those skills apply to any kind of work you will find. When you think about an employer will look for those skills from anyone, from everybody.
Exactly.
It's like you will have to write, obviously. You will know how to compose, to something. You have to write. You know how to do a little bit of research. Nowadays, it seems that everyone is required to do some data collection or data gathering in some capacity. When you think about, I don't think many people thought that marketing would be a place where someone with a degree in social science will have a possible employment. But it is. I mean,
Absolutely.
Communication is the other one that when you think about. And if you have skills as to how to relate to people and communicate with people, that's the important thing, So I think it's the application of a degree, I think, is expanded from the times when I went to school. I remember back in those days was the only employer that you thought you will you were sick, it will be a school. You will have to have a master's degree to teach, I guess, at a community college, and you need to have a PhD, a doctorate, to teach at a university, right?
Right, exactly.
But I think it's the areas as to where you will work were a little bit limited. Now I think there is more. It has expanded. You can apply what you learned at school in many more places than there were before. It seems to me.
Absolutely.
And talking about research, I learned that you were in the process of doing a research on oral history. So tell me about that research, Maria.
Yes, in the past year, we started an oral history project that had really its seeds in one of my classes. It's a world cultures course focused on Latin America and the Caribbean. And what students were studying was the growth of the Latino population in our area, in our county. And so they were conducting interviews with people from Latin America and the Caribbean. And they came back with these papers and presentations that were really fabulous. And I thought, wow, we really should make this a bigger project. And so now we have this oral history or life histories project. One of my colleagues, Jorge Fujigaki, who's a professor of history, coincidentally had the same assignment
for the students, for his students.
And so this is how we ended up collaborating on this broader project.
Well, I think I think many teachers, I presume, will give assignments that will give the intention, I presume, is that you will want your students to gain experience in something you're teaching in class. And some of these classes, obviously, or careers sometimes tend to overlap. What you're saying is, you mentioned Jorge, one of professor of history at the college, that is also doing a similar or about the same study with the students, the history class students. And what a perfect way for you to do something together. So now, something that started independently in each one of the classes in anthropology and history, now you have a study that's going to be history and anthropology, and it's going to get larger, and bigger, and expanded. So
Exactly.
good to hear too that it was something that would start with the students.
Yes.
So how many participants, how many people did they interview?
Well, there are about, from the students, 20 interviews that are good, very good actually, and I'm hoping to do more this next year. We have a program in anthropology called Rookie Research, so I'm hoping to have a couple students join me in focusing specifically on this, where they will be working closely with me on doing the interviews and going through the whole entire process of finding the person and doing the interview and the transcriptions and gaining a lot of real-world experience with that.
Oh, definitely is. How did you find the participants for the first, what I would call it, a pilot? You know, the first year when the students last year,
a pilot, yes.
when the students took this assignment, they said, we're going to do this for 2 semesters, I presume. Then how did they find the participants?
Well, with the changes in the county, it's not too hard to find someone who's immigrated from Latin America or the Caribbean, but I left it completely up to them. So they went through the entire process. So initiating contact, gaining rapport, setting up the interview, conducting and recording the interview, transcribing the interview, and then doing an analysis and a presentation.
When you said transcribing, I remember back in my days, you know, you interview people, individuals, right? How many hours of interview they did? I mean, I'm thinking per participant, because one is you use whatever tool you're going to use. Back in my days was a tape recorder. That, I don't know, that is different now. But it was like the number of hours you have a conversation. So like you and I, we have in this interview now that is going to last for 30 minutes. But then depending on how much time you're going to be with the person, the participant, then you have to transcribe that into, into paper, or, put it in your computer now. How many hours was this?
Well, the interviews were under an hour, but transcriptions can take 2 to 3 hours at least to do. So they put in a lot of work.
Besides compiling these interviews with the participants, are you collecting any other artifacts or something that go with the oral history?
Absolutely. We think it's important to have images as well. So the students are collecting photographs, which tell a story, right?
Visually?
Visually, absolutely. And we will have in our archives both the transcriptions and the images, which are so important. And I have, we did interview Martin Mayorga of Mayorga Coffee, and so we have an image that we took when we interviewed him, which is a standard practice as well. But here he is in front of his bags of coffee from Nicaragua, where he is actually from.
Yes.
So that's one kind of picture that we have. But we also have pictures that date back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, which for some people is not that long ago, but others it is.
Right.
Pre-digital images are
I was
really
going to say,
quite
now
important.
it is incredible how that have made, I think have made the work of a research easier. That you can have a digital image instead of, back in our days, we took a photo with a film. Do you remember those days? You didn't even know what you were going to get until you took it for development, and many of people in their teens may not remember what that process was, because now we just take photos, and we know exactly what the photo is going to look like because we can just see it right there, right?
Well, you bring up a really important point, and that is back even in the 80s and 90s, it was an investment to take pictures, because even if you took a roll of half black images, you're still paying for it. And so a lot of people who are struggling economically don't have those images, so or they only have a few. And so it is really important to be able to capture those that are out there and record that part of history.
That's so interesting. Now, where is the so you're collecting this the interviews and these documents from the participants, and you mentioned the archives. So have you shown that yet for the first for the pilot part of this study? The students had just finished the first year and did the pilot with the interviews, and they have photos. Have you shown that yet? Have you done a presentation with all that?
No, not yet. We are planning to put an online exhibit together, and hopefully put up a live exhibit maybe in the library or in some of the public libraries as well. But we're working on partnerships to be able to do that.
Well, very good. So, Maria, question. Say that someone would like to learn more about your project, and sorry, we don't have Jorge or other colleague, professor of history at Montgomery College, here to also provide with this information in case there's someone who would like to know more or participate. How can someone get in touch with you, Maria?
Well, we are very interested in having more people participate, individuals and families. So if someone is interested and would like to give us an interview or some photographs, which we scan and return, we don't keep them, the best way to contact me is by phone or by email. And my phone number here at the college is 240-567-7484. And my email is maria.sprehn@montgomerycollege.edu, which is maria.sprehn@montgomerycollege.edu.
Good. So if any of you who's listening to this interview on the radio, or you're watching this on TV, or eventually this is going to go to YouTube too, then would like to participate in this study, please get in touch with Maria Sprehn. She would love to hear from you. So call her number or write to her. And if you need to know more about Mi Escuela, Escuela, just Google. Go to Mi Escuela, Escuela program, and then you will get some of the previous shows that we tape for the radio, and they're on TV too. Well, going back to our conversation, Maria. So the project started with students, and now how far do you think you will go with the project? You will continue, obviously, this is an ongoing project. And as long as you're teaching anthropology at the college, you will continue with this, you think?
I hope so, and I hope even when I'm not teaching anthropology, somebody else continues with the project. The history keeps happening, and we have so many people here whose stories should be told and need to be told and archived as well. These are stories that are important not only for future generations and future researchers, but also stories that foster understanding and appreciation of one another. I think in sharing our stories, we understand each other better.
Yeah, and I think it does say something about how important it is for us to learn from who our neighbors, who are, where we come from, because I think it is true. This country is made of people who came from other countries, and we settle, and many of us came thinking that we were only here for a couple of months, or this is a short visit. My experience had told me that people tend to set roots, and I think I've been in the United States for now more than half of my life. So it is amazing, it's just incredible. So going back to the field of anthropology, and with your study too, I think have you thought about expanding this study? Obviously, you have concentrated in the study of Latinos in the county, and this is a very diverse population as we've seen it, since your days as a child in the county. You are a Montgomery County resident, right?
I am.
Yes. So you probably have seen the changes in this county since your days, in school, and you attended the public school system here in the county.
I did. I attended Watkins Mill Elementary School, which was or is in Montgomery Village, which at the time was farmland. I can date myself. But I have seen the changes.
Yes.
It's been fascinating to see general stores change to Morazan markets with products from all over the world as well. But I am hoping and planning to not only focus on Latinos, but to broaden the study to include other ethnic groups. For example, if I have a student interested in studying the Ethiopian community, they should be able to do that. So I think
certainly
what we're going towards is an archive of immigration in Montgomery County. And we're currently working on partnerships to be able to do that, to be able to archive and keep these stories and images available for people in the future.
Future generation. And it's true that many times I think we hear the stories, and I think it's the one thing that we have probably lost, and I could be wrong here, Maria, is that back in our days, I think is before there were all these new technologies, we learn our history through our parents and grandparents. Somebody was a repository of all this history and all this background, and we heard that, and then we pass it on and pass it on. I don't know how many of us still do that. And I think with the social mobility, now we're so transient many times that people have gone to so many different places before actually coming to the United States. I am one fascinated with getting, for example, the story from a gentleman who I remember I met at a store. He is from Ethiopia, and he was working at this store, and I started a conversation with him, a very nice man. And he said, I've been in the United States for about, I think he said 7 to 10 years, and this is my last stop. I'm not going anywhere. And he said he started in Ethiopia so many years before, and then he was in Europe, and then he went to Canada, and before Canada came to the United States, and said too many stops, too many places. And I think it is just remarkable how many places people have been many times before coming to the United States. You know, with the different circumstances in their home countries, you know, people leave for many reasons. But I think it's keeping the history as to documenting, I think.
Yes, I think that's really important to hear and record these stories and experiences that people have had. I think particularly focusing on Montgomery County, when we had you know, a large percentage of people coming from the Central American countries because
Yes,
of civil conflict, a lot of the people who did come are getting older, and we want to be able to capture those stories before they are gone.
When you think about 20 years ago, it's a generation that I think is a generation that 30 years ago, 20 years ago is quite a bit of many years. And I think it's what I see many times. People tend to forget their history, you know, because I think we're either too busy or the present is the present.
Right.
But I think it's many times people don't remember what the circumstances of people were 20 or 30 years or 40 years ago or 50 years ago. They're very different than where we are now, you know, and what the circumstances or situation is now. But this is a fascinating thing. I think is the other thing that I see with your project, Maria, is that, yes, is learning about where we're from, how we got here. There are many similarities among us. And everybody's obviously looking for a better place, stability for family, you know. And when you hear about from parents and students, is everybody wants the same thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Having children, you know.
And taking care of your children. And,
Yeah. Looking after your family.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is, it is a great project what you have going. So again, listeners and you there that are going to watch this program later on TV or on YouTube, get in touch with Maria if you would like to participate in this study or history study. The number to call you is, Maria?
To my office is 240-567-7484. You can also send me an email at Sprehn at montgomerycollege.edu, and that's maria.sprehn at montgomerycollege.edu. And we'd be very pleased to hear from you and hear your story.
And the other thing too, Maria, that I find it is sometimes when people call me at the office or write to me, I always ask suggestions. What else do you think we need to include for our program? Mi Escuela es su escuela. My school is your school in English. Is that they call me and I said, you know, because I'm thinking that I'm covering everything that I need to cover, and of course I'm always discovering things that the college has to offer. Or for you, like you know, you're teaching anthropology. Well, we need to tell the students what is anthropology. I need to bring someone who teaches the field, so the career. So this is good that you have Maria's phone number in case you personally would like to study anthropology or would like to learn of other social science, I think, is majors or careers that the college has. It would be fantastic. So thank you so very much for coming and responding to my call to join us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been very enjoyable.
I am pleased to hear that. And this is just, please tune in and remember that if you need any information or need help with anything at Montgomery College, there is a response center, the main line for Montgomery College, and the number is 240-567-5000. And they should be able to give you information about admission, enrollment, financial aid, or direct you to those places. And if you need any assistance, please call them. They're available to you. The main number for English as a second language, as well as, you know, the non-credit section of the college is 240-567-5188. Please call us. We would love to hear from you. and we're always at your service. So remember, education is always something that you can pursue regardless of your age. Don't think that because you are 20 or 30, and I get those phone calls that people said, I'm too old to do this. It's never too late. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for tuning in and for listening. And I'll be glad to hear from you. It's Gloria Bonilla, 240-567-3961. Thank you so much. Take care, and until next time.